Welcome to the weekly and welcome to Matthias Studios Pottery here on the south shore of Boston, Massachusetts, in the heart of Marshfield Center, the only active pottery in this region. If you want to visit me at one point, you can make an appointment at info@matthiasstudios.com or drop in by chance. Well, today is the big day. This is my largest mold to date, and I've been debating how I'm going to unmold it successfully. When pieces are this big, they are extremely fragile. And I am unmolding this, and I hope it doesn't break in front of me and in front of you in this video. So I'm going to very gingerly turn it upside down, lift the mold, and we are going to see how this piece turns out. It's been drying for roughly about 3 weeks, so that it's semi-solid form. This is when the clay is so fragile. But when you're making molds, this is what you deal with. So we're going to very carefully turn this upside down and lift it out. I know of no other way to really do it. So the mold is a terracotta vessel, and I built this piece. If the camera can see a view of that, I built the piece within this vessel. So what happens is, if they do break, now I turn those broken pieces into abstract forms of artwork, which I submit to. Those are what I consider my gallery collections. They are not production pieces, because once that happens, there's really no way to recreate that particular piece. It is really a one of a kind, never to be attempted to be created again. So that's what I do if these break, just so the clay doesn't go to waste. But I would love to see this piece intact. So we carefully tip it on its side, and then, if it does break, again, it turns into a gallery piece. I submit those pieces to galleries, and actually I submitted one of those pieces to a show not too long ago at the South Shore Art Center, and I called that piece Broken But Beautiful. And I posted that on my Facebook account a couple times if you want to go back in history and try to look for it. I did a 360 of that piece. Incredible piece. It's on a beautiful pedestal. So that's an example of one of my broken pieces. So, okay, let's unmold this particular piece. I'm very, very excited about this series. But as always, they're an experiment. So, okay, so it's on its side. That's step one. Step two is very gingerly turning it over. You can hear it. You try to not make it move too much. So now it's all the way down, and it looks like it's pretty stable. I line the terracotta base with a plastic so that it won't stick. It would stick to that terracotta if I didn't line the piece itself. And it kind of holds the piece together when you're doing this very nerve-wracking unmolding. So now you lift the piece up. It's stable on the table. I didn't hear any cracking. Lift it up like that. This is an awesome form. Huge. And it looks like the piece is intact. So I lift the plastic up. Again, being very careful. Very, very careful. Wow. Look at that piece. I need to move the camera a little bit so you can kind of get a better sense. There we go. This is This is going to be ready for firing very soon. So the next step is just to let it dry where it's at for, well, it's really light. I expected it to be a lot heavier. To let it sit here, and now this is the second phase of drying. So it's been drying in that mold for 3 weeks. The exterior is still slightly, it's not, I wouldn't even say it's damp, but you can feel there's something about gauging. The clay has to be completely dry before I biscuit. So if it's not, it will blow up in the kiln. So you just got to have it, it's either going to blow up or just a bunch of stress cracks are going to happen, or it'll crack in half. So I'm just going to let this sit here for probably another day or two, and then I'm going to have a firing. And the next phase, the plan for this piece, this is a prototype piece I'm partnering up with another individual. We're not revealing the project yet, but this piece is, I don't think it's going to be glazed. I think the next part, after it's made into a bisqueware, the next phase for this piece is I'm going to build a fire pit, and I'm going to not glaze it, but I'm going to fire it in a fire pit overnight, throwing a bunch of twigs and leaves and ash, and that's another way to, it's not glazing a piece, but it's more like varnishing a piece. That's another way to give your pottery a finished look, but it's going to feel really, really earthy. It's going to have all bunch of score marks on it. The leaves are going to implant colorage on it. The ash will implant colorage on it. And that's another exciting aspect with this particular piece. And I'm hoping that after a few of these have been made consistently, this project moves into a production project. And this, by far, is going to be, I think, one of the most exciting production pieces, possible production pieces at the Pottery today. We'll see how it turns out. The next phase, the next critical phase would be that next firing where you're throwing it in the fire pit, because again, very unpredictable. Just like me doing this unmolding right now, it's unpredictable because the way I build my pieces, they're quite fragile. So very happy this turned out. I'm glad it didn't break in front of you all, and I will keep you posted on this particular piece. A lot happening at the Pottery here. That's for next week's conversation. So until then, as always, stay creative.